Mike, it seems like Preston's almost had two seasons, two sacks in the first 8 games, seven in the past seven. What did you see clicked in for him to be on this holy tear that he's been on these past 7 games?
Just staying with the process. I think when you look at the first part of the schedule, you play a lot of quarterbacks that got rid of the ball quick. That type of stuff. It's hard to get. Obviously, we talked about this before, getting there. But just staying with the process, staying what we do, and just our effort and our toughness and how we set up rushes, and eventually you're going to have success. So, um, so I'm proud of Preston. He's staying the same all year, hasn't changed, hasn't chased anything, and so um, usually when you do that, you have a good year.
Jason Wilde.
Hey, Mike, I have
Hey,
a question about Preston too, but Aaron brought up the Holiday Bowl that you guys played in against each other,
oh,
unless
Aaron
I'm
Rodgers.
misremembering this.
Yeah, yeah.
Before my Preston, what do you remember from that matchup with him? And do you guys like talk about that ever when you guys have now been together in Green Bay?
Yeah, I try to bring it up about once a week if I can. I got on my computer. I got some highlights I'll throw up every time he walks by or something. But no, I just remember how uh, obviously that game and build up to that game because they were really good. I think they were like fourth in the country, and we might have been 13th. And well, I remember the most was the luncheon the day before, and we went first. And Mike Leach's big deal is you never load another man's gun, right? And so you speak good about him and so I went up first and just praised them, and they had a guy on their defense that got up, and I think it was a safety, and just dogged us, just really bad, So Mike Leach was upset. So as a team, we were all fired up, and we went out there and we got after their butt. And so I remember the night before the game, I was laying in bed thinking like, all right, when we beat these jokers, what am I going to do? I said, those big cheerleading flags, had a big double T on it. So when we beat them, I got in front of their bench and was just waving it. Well, somebody took a picture. So fast forward a couple months later, me and Aaron are both in the same draft class, right? Which is pretty amazing. And his room, we're at the rookie symposium, and his room is right next to mine. So that night, I printed off a picture of me waving it, and I put it underneath his door, right? And so the next morning, he sits down and eats breakfast with me, and he loved it. That kind of tells you what kind of person. And Aaron's still the same. And he loves that type of stuff. But I do like to rub it in quite a bit with him.
I knew that would pay off. Thank you. So about Preston, I said this to Joe earlier, and tell me if I'm wrong on this, but there's a bunch of us that have covered the league a long time, and you played and coached in this league a long time. I feel like there are a lot of guys that when they have a really good season and then they have a downward season, they kind of just keep going down, and suddenly you don't hear from them again, that they don't reverse the trend back up. And obviously, statistically, Preston's season last year was not great. What have
Sure.
you seen from him this year that has allowed him to not just reverse the trend, but really get it right back up to where it had been?
Yeah, I just think how he approached this whole year. I think with last year, it was just, and Preston might want to speak better on this, but how I said, I think just the COVID deal just threw a lot of things off. I think there was a lot of unknown with the season and stuff like that. And I think with Preston, I don't think it was the entire year. I think the first 9 games weren't very well. I think he got away from what we talked about earlier of what we do. And I think that last half of last year, that's where he really started picking it up. But I just think it was a funk those first 9 games, and it wasn't him, and he knows that, and he'd tell you that. And I think when the season was over, he sat down with me and we had a long talk, and he knew what he had to come out and do this year. And that's the thing I love about Preston. He doesn't have an ego or nothing like that, and he's not sensitive. I can call him in, tell him what I thought about practice, and if it was good, if it was bad, if it, all that type of stuff, and he takes what it is. And so that's one thing I like about Preston.
Wes.
Okay, Mike, I'm going to pull a Wildy here too. I have a Rashan Gary question, but first I want to follow up on Mike Smith. In that game, how did you play back in the Holiday Bowl? Like, how did that game go for you individually? Just curious.
I thought it was pretty good. It's funny because I think it was this last week or a couple weeks ago. Guys asked something about a highlight or something. I threw it in, when you watch yourself, whatever, 20 years ago, like, God dang, I was slow. Man, couldn't move, you know. So I try not to watch those too much, but I thought I played defense. I was tough, I'll tell you that, you know. So, but played good enough to beat the heck out of them.
I was gonna say, any pressures at all?
Shoot, maybe got a couple.
Okay.
I think I have to go back and watch the whole thing, but there's a couple good clips I like to show.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, I want to ask you quickly about Rashan, and I don't want to bring up the S word with sacks, but to see everything kind of come together for him this year, not that is the end all be all, but you know, between that and the hits, how gratifying has that been able to, you know, to see a guy that's put in that kind of work and has been on this kind of upward trajectory sort of have that payoff here in year 3?
It's great because it you know, everything as a coach that you sell and you try to, you know, get them to believe in and all that stuff, it pays off, you know, and Rashan deserves all the credit, the way he works. I mean, just today, you know, it just constantly, he's flying around, making plays, working his hands. You know, we don't take periods off. Special teams is going, we're doing something, and everything is just locked in, full speed, you know, and what's great too is, you know, obviously Preston's, you know, a big leader on this defense, but he's talking, right? You know, he called the team up today and broke it down and said a few things, and that's what's pretty amazing about, you know, it's just crazy how fast time goes by. It's been 3 years, you know, since I've had him and watching him grow and develop into, you know, what he is today. And he's still got a lot of growing. I mean, he hasn't even scratched the surface of how good this kid's going to be. And so couldn't be more proud of him on what he's accomplished this year. And like you said, sack stuff, that stuff, you know, like last week, I think he had 8 or 9 pressures and, you know, in a sack. But it's he does his job, and he's a tough son of a gun. So couldn't be more proud of him.
Ryan Wood.
Hey, Mike, I'm going to bring up the S.
You look comfortable, man. I tell you what, you look like you're about to fall asleep.
I'm awake. I'm alert here. I'm all about it. If Preston gets 1 sack and Rashan gets a half sack this week, they both have double digits.
Sure.
How believable would that have been if you'd have a pair of double-digit edge rushers if you'd been told before the season that Darius Smith would have 18 snaps for you all year?
I probably wouldn't have thought about it, not the sack stuff, but I mean, it wouldn't have shocked me. You know, both those guys, you know, I think are the best in the league. You know, I think that's, again, like I said a couple of weeks ago, I always say that's what gets twisted about this whole sack. Now, I think a great example that proved what I was talking about last week is this what is that guy's name from Chicago, the hub guy. I mean, I had to look him up just to see who it was. I mean, he looks like somebody that does my taxes. But what he said is it proves what I was saying. There's something wrong with the process, and for him to say something like that and he votes and stuff, like, that's a huge issue. It's a huge problem. That guy shouldn't, whoever that guy is, he shouldn't even vote again. I mean, you know, if you want to see the character of a man, look how he treats others that are not equal. I'll tell you one thing about Aaron Rodgers. I've never seen him treat a guy bad. So it's one of the most misleading things I've ever seen since I've been here. I mean, the guy treats everybody in this building with respect. It's unbelievable. I mean, you saw, first thing I think about Preston, him and Preston walking off the field with their arms over each other. I mean, the love that he has, but to me, what that guy does, that shows you what's going on in this process. And so I don't want to ramble on that, but it's a disgrace, and it's all about play and all that stuff. And to me, you're going to say a guy's a jerk and a bad guy. People that say what he did in public on air, that's a bad guy. So, you know, thank God Aaron could give, you know, care what people say about him or all that type of stuff. But to me, that's, you know, going on last week, that's a prime example of what's going on. So, but yeah, I'm proud of those guys. Again, sorry guys, probably going off rambling, but I just think that's a good example of that Pro Bowl and All-Pro type stuff going on.
Jason Wilde.
Okay, so changing topics. One of the things, Mike, that I think we appreciate about you is that you're pretty unvarnished in assessing your guys. You don't throw them under the bus, but you're usually pretty honest with us about them. And a couple weeks ago, you were talking about how your guys don't chase sacks against the run.
Yep.
And then I don't know, you know, I'm not going to pretend to know the scheme better than others, but you guys weren't great on the edge, it seemed like, against Chubb. Do you feel like that's fair criticism from the Browns game? And do you feel like you guys kind of got that rectified and you're in a good spot to go against the run going forward?
Sure. Like you said, I'm always straightforward and honest with you guys, and honest with anybody that wants to have a conversation with me. If you go to the Cleveland Brown, it's funny because, all those rushing yards that got put on the edges, right? Oh, it was a terrible edge, all that type of stuff, right? When you really look at it, there was 2 plays that we should affect. There was one with Jonathan that he got up the field and forced it when he should have spilled it, and then Tipa, he widened on one and forced a little deal, right? That's the thing about football, guys, and you guys know this, and telling you something that you guys don't know. It's funny when the run game, they like to blame, outside people like to blame the front, right? It's always the front, not the back end. Same thing in passing. You get 400 yards, they're saying, oh, it has to be the secondary. Damn, we want to get in a dang rush on the quarterback. He's holding on to the ball back there. And so it takes a unit. But there was clearly some things in that game, not just us, but everybody. That's football. That's what it is. It's linebackers getting over the top on stretch with pullers. It's D-line not getting cut out front. It's outside linebackers, spilling and when you're supposed to spill it and force it when it's a same side puller. I mean, there's so much that goes into a game, right? How do you know there's, a couple of those snaps where we weren't the edge of the defense. It looks like it because we are in the edge, but we might be a C-gap defender. It's a certain call. That's why I always try to tell you guys there's so much that goes into a game. It's hard to watch a play unless you know exactly what's called up front in the coverage. But clearly that game, there was plays that we got to get better on. But again, it goes as a unit. You can never put a bad play on one person, right? That's a great thing playing with Rex Ryan used to say it all the time. Sometimes it's not going to get fit right? But if we're running to the ball, we're hustling the ball, and we're violent, and we're getting off of blocks, it shouldn't be a big game. It shouldn't, right? And so, I thought we did. This last week, I thought we were obviously a lot better against the run, just as a unit. And so, that's how I look at defense. Period. Run or pass. Better the coverage, better the rush. Better the rush, better the coverage. Right. And so all that type of stuff that's defense. That was a good question. Good question though.
Rob Domofsky.
Mike, I don't have a football question, but after hearing what you said about the guy in Chicago, it looks like he's somebody that should be doing your taxes. What do we look like?
A lot better than him. I'll tell you that.
Okay.
I just think that sometimes, people like to get noticed and they say things, especially when, I don't even know if Aaron's met the guy. But I'm sure he doesn't know him, and to judge somebody off of something like that and to make it public. When you got guys around the league taking their shirts off and leaving games, and you're saying this guy's the biggest jerk, and you don't even. Come on. I don't even know why you say something like that, and to have a spot where he's voting for the Pro Bowl and that's what he's going to vote it on because it's what he thinks, and he's a Chicago guy. Is he mad because Aaron said I own this? I own you guys. I don't know what it is, but you just don't do things like that. That tarnishes, the reputation of being an All-Pro. Like guys look up to that, man. It means a lot to them, and for you to come out and say something like that, I hope that guy never is involved in that process ever again. So, I don't want to hit too much on it, but I just tell you one thing: Aaron Rodgers is a hell of a man. I'll tell you that. He's high character. High character. You go ask anybody in this building, from the guys that cook in the cafeteria at 4 o'clock in the morning, working. I've never seen this guy not treat people with respect and love his teammates and his coaches, and it's one of the most misleading things I've ever seen since I've been here about that guy. So he's a hell of a man, I'll tell you that.
Mark Daniels.
Hey, Mike, just going along those lines, that would make us think you're just an accident waiting to happen. No teeth, broken arm, who knows? But no, I got to ask you about, you obviously derailed plans with Z going down the way he did, and I knew you wanted to get guys like Jonathan and Tipa some seasoning. Have you feel that they have gotten enough that now you can be creative because teams are going to be really paying attention to P and Rashan from here on out?
Yeah, they've been paying attention to them. To be honest with you, all year. I think even last year with Z, I've never seen so many chip blocks in my life every week. Just pull up last week's game. They're only going to have about 3 or 4 opportunities to get to that. I'm not saying you can't get a sack on a chip or a double, all that stuff, but it makes it hell now. And so it's just it's crazy. We talk about it all the time. Obviously, clearly, break down the opponent and the chips, the thumps. I'm seeing where they're at. Is it empties, at DOF? Are they doing out of the backfield set, all that stuff? And, just about every week it's like, that's not really that much. And then we get in our game, it's like, damn, And so that's just part of it, and it's not going to change if Jonathan and Teep are out there with them two guys. And, I think if we do eventually get Z back, where it helps is him rushing inside. I think that's one of the best qualities Zadarius has is, his athletic ability. Obviously, he's clearly good rushing on the edge, but when you throw him inside with some of these guards that are obviously less athletic, you got less chance of getting chipped, thumped. Sometimes you see it with the back, but it's rare. A lot of things with protections and stuff, you can isolate him with the one-on-one. But it is good with Jonathan and Tipa. Again, they're still young and they're still learning. They're doing some great things, and things they got to clean up just like everybody else. But these reps are huge for their career. It's huge. It's the same thing with Rashan, just growing every year and seeing things. It's like anything we do in life. You're really not going to get good at it until the more you rep it and the more you do it. And so I still think those guys are going to be hell of players in this league, the more they get to play.
Jason Wilde.
Hey, Mike, you kind of touched on it in your answer about Jonathan and Tipa, but what would it mean to you guys, maybe not from the X's and O's standpoint that you were just talking about with him as an interior rusher, but what would it mean to you guys if you did get Zadarius back somehow in the postseason? And what has he been doing with you, like in outside of practice or whatever, to at least give himself a chance to maybe come back still?
Sure, it's big. I mean, you're talking about a guy that's been a leader of our defense, a guy that's had a lot of success. A guy that plays the game in which it should be played. That we talk about all the time, the toughness and how aggressive he is and his mindset towards the game. I mean, it's big. I mean, you've got to scheme around Z if you're on offense. Same thing with my other two guys. But his leadership that he brings is going to be back. Is going to be big. And so right now he's doing everything. He's in meetings with me. Obviously he's still limited because of his back and stuff, but he's in the meetings. He's paying attention and I treat it just like he is playing every week. I ask him questions, and he does the tests and all that type of good stuff. And so, we'll see how it plays out. But when he's ready to roll, he'll be ready to roll. He won't be shy going in there. He'll throw his body around.